Welcome to Peak Personalities. This is a series we'll be doing bi-weekly with me and Nathan. The concept will be going by one series at a time, talking about some of our favorite moments, about a variety of characters, and for now, we're covering Bleach. For today, we'll be covering the nihilistic god, the one without a heart, also known as Ulquiorra.
Sick! A good one.
Highly recommend everyone reads his backstory in Bleach Unmasked.
How dare you make them want to read?
I know, I'm brutal. My pivotal moment for Ulquiorra is bringing this spear into the heart of Ichigo, because he absolutely bodies him 2 times in a row. And in his first scene,
Body's an understatement.
yeah, it kind of is. And in his first scene, Ichigo's like struggling with Yami. But Ulquiorra is just watching the fight. He doesn't even draw a sword when like Urahara and Yoruichi show up. It's like Ichigo knows without training he has absolutely no shot because they didn't even make Ulquiorra draw his sword. And then once he starts getting, he starts feeling himself up, and he gets that hollow mask, and he tries to fight Ulquiorra because he says he kidnapped Orihime. It just doesn't go well for Ichigo at all.
You know, that's not how Ichigo rolls, though. He's gonna try.
I do like that Ichigo's Getsuga makes Ulquiorra take his second hand out of his pocket.
Yeah, no, I feel in that moment. Ichigo was probably so proud of himself eternally. Like, yes, made him use his other hand.
That's where he starts absolutely hating Ichigo.
That's when he's just like so annoyed by him. Like, oh my gosh.
He made me use my second hand. What's something that really changes because of Ulquiorra?
See, here's the thing with Ulquiorra. Like, that minute when he shows, like, when he's fighting Ichigo and he rips off, like, part of his shirt, right? He shows that 4. He's, like, telling Ichigo, like, dude, I'm the 4th strongest. I think that's a little baloney, by the way. But he's, like, basically trying to, like, tell Ichigo, like, dude, you have no shot in the world. Like, if you're struggling to beat me, I'm only 4, man. And I think that was, like, he was trying to give, like, Ichigo a wake-up call there and do it a similar way of how Yuha was, just trying to, like, put Ichigo in a point of despair and like, yeah, you have no shot. I think that's probably what the role of Ulquiorra was, to just put Ichigo in that moment of like, you have no shot and you have no way of beating any of us. And that's just not how Ichigo rolls. That's one of his defining points of him as a character, is that he just doesn't give up. For Ulquiorra, it's those themes of like what he's like, why is this kid trying? Like, why is he still fighting? Why is he not giving up? Why does he not see like there's a giant wall in him and he's just banging his head against the wall? And this, like, I think this is what brings like the curiosity of Ulquiorra behind Ichigo, and like also how like kind of hates it at the same time. Yeah, that's probably like a plot moment. I wouldn't say it's like groundbreaking or changing to the plot.
I would say aside from Grimjow, Ulquiorra has like the most cat-like qualities to him. He has like that innate curiosity. He's really light on his feet.
He's also very curious, especially when his interactions with Orihime. Like, I wouldn't say his like plot implications are huge, but his like character interactions are pretty important. Like how he interacts with Ichigo, with Grimjow, how he interacts with Orihime, how he interacts with Yami. Like you get a lot.
Strong character moment. This is not a verbatim quote. What is a heart? Can I touch it if I rip it from your chest? And this comes from his interaction with Orihime, where she's saying like, oh, her friends are coming to save her, and it doesn't matter what happens because their soul is one. And Rukior is such a literal character that the intangible is something that he strives to connect to and learn about throughout his character arc. What's really neat about Ulquiorra is like he's supposed to be a metaphor for nihilism, but he actually has a positive character arc, whereas Ichigo has a negative character arc over the Spada saga.
Probably a question for you. Why do you think Ulquiorra is so popular amongst the fan base?
I was gonna put this in the favorite thing about them, but we can put it in here. I think it's because a lot of anime is the male demographic, and because of how masculinity gets portrayed, men are often told not to show their emotions, try to like bottle it up, and also a lot of the nerdy things is like really big into autism, and I think Ulquiorra is just like the most autistic character in Bleach. He has so many different parallels to that, from like his lack of showing emotions, like he's really restrained.
If at all.
He also is very like literal.
He's quite a yapper though around Ichigo and Orihime.
Yeah, but he literally says, I can't see it or grab it with my hands or see it with my eyes. It doesn't exist.
Oh yeah, no, he's
And it's like a bit of extreme. Like, autism and people who are autistic struggle
mm-hmm.
to understand like those figures of speech and symbolism and things of that nature. So I think it just connects really well with the main demographic of anime watchers.
This isn't really my favorite thing about him, but I always like his design is very like you can look at Ulquiorra and you can get your 2 cents of what he's like. Like he's not really expressive. He's not really showboaty type characters.
Like Grimjow, Basby.
Yeah, he's very reserved, dark in nature, if you will. I think the demographic just connects with him a little bit because he has a part of him that's a little bit in everyone. Not nihilism, but kind of a mild, softer nihilism approach that some people might connect to a little bit, or they kind of like that eerie, I wouldn't say emo, but he kind of gives those kind of vibes, and people like that. They have a little bit of that in them and their interactions in life.
My biggest surprise, without doubt, has to be the number 4 reveal. Like, that threw me for such a loop.
You're making this hard on me now because now I gotta figure. Because that didn't make sense, man. I totally thought he was gonna be like, I'm like, all right, he's probably like number 2, but no, that's insane.
I think this is a great opportunity to talk about the spotter rankings because I think Aizen's pulling some fucking captitude here.
Oh, he definitely is.
Because on Club Outside, Kubo mentioned any of the Espada could eventually get a Segunda Etapa, but Rukiora is the only person we see demonstrate here. And then Ulquiorra and Yami are the only people whose Espada number vanishes with their transformation, which would imply they like went past the number ranking.
Yeah, I don't know if those numbers are like tattooed on them.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a tattoo or like it's a magical spiritual pressure mark.
Yeah, or like it's like some type of Ryatsu. It's just like embedded into them. I don't know.
The other thing that I would mention is I think Rukior is the only Espada Aizen doesn't trash talk. And also Aizen treats him like a second-hand man. The only people he treats like that is like Rukiora, Gin, and Tosen. That's because he has to consider 3 of them stronger than the rest of the Espada.
I'm trying to think. Does Ulquiorra have any real interactions with Aizen?
He's around the meetings, and he usually refers to Rukiora. Like, the only mission Aizen actually gives are to Rukiora. He sends Rukiora to investigate, like, Ichigo's strength, Urahara, and Yoroichi, and he comes back, he's like, Orihime is a weird ability, but everyone else is trash. He's like, oh, thank you, Rukiora. And then he's like, hey, Rukiora, can you kidnap Orihime? He's like, sure, I got you. So then he goes and gets Orihime. And then also when Aizen leaves Las Noches and he goes to Fake Karakura, he says, oh, I'm leaving this in your hands, Rukiora. It's up to you. He doesn't say that to anyone else.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a mutual trust between each other. Ulquiorra doesn't really... I don't think Ichigo like begs to even question why do you follow Aizen. I think it's just something that he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, I think it goes back to Rukiora's curiosity. Like Stark wants friends, but Rukiora wants to see how things are gonna shake out.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I think that part of Ulquiorra's character is curiosity. I think Ulquiorra was so fine with this because he knew the interactions he was going to have were going to pique his interest about humanity and things about the heart, with what the Espada were doing. He didn't bat an eye really to Urahara. I mean, who was the best one? Who was the strongest one in that moment? I mean, come on.
Rukiora has pretty good durability feats there too, because he literally just reflects Benihime with his bare hand. He's just like, eh.
He wasn't really going for a kill when he was looking at Yami and Ulquiorra. Then again, Urahara's a planner.
He is a planner, not a fighter.
He is a planner. He's not a fighter. Which, I mean, I guess that goes into... Well, I wonder why Ulquiorra has... why is he put up with Yami? Is it like kind of like a Vegeta and a Nappa thing if you ever seen Dragon Ball Z?
I've never seen Dragon Ball Z, but I've heard a lot of people compare Yami and Ulquiorra to them. I very well think it could just be a nod to them. Dragon Ball Z was one of Kubo's like early things that actually got him into art. So I'm pretty sure it's just supposed to be a reference.
I mean, they've definitely countered, like, they're definitely opposites from each other, where Yami's very expressive and boisterous, and Ulquiorra is more chill, laid back, nihilistic, not so passionate, kind of just motivated by pure curiosity. Versus Yami, who's just like, I get to kill things and see things bleed.
My peak moment, objectively, is Segunda Etapa. It was just an absolute shock in that moment. And the visuals, they didn't do this in colored manga, but in the anime, when he activates Segunda Etapa and Uryu and Orihime are coming up, it's just like green acid rain. And it's just like, oh, this is dangerous and not of this world. He just does some of the most impressive things we've ever seen. Lanzar del Rapago is like,
I love the names of those attacks, dude. Those Kubo absolutely ate with the freaking Hispanic named attacks. I think they absolutely ate with the Espada. I loved it.
Ulquiorra's Lanzar del Rapago is such a huge attack. It's on repeat. He has crazy regen feats. Like, even when he tried to let Hollow Ichigo one-shot him with his Sero, he lived.
He has some crazy durability feats. I mean, Hollow Ichigo was absolutely mopping the floor with him, but he was literally like at least staying alive.
I think he's unparalleled to any of the other Espada when it comes to regeneration.
We don't know how it ranks up, but I really can't see any of the other Espada not getting one-shotted by, Hollow White Ichigo.
Yeah, I have no clue how Barragan will work against Hollow Ichigo.
He's more hacks, though.
Yeah.
I think if he takes a Sero to the face, I think he's just kind of done. But even then, I don't even know how you really beat Baragon anyway. Now I think about it, because, Hachi and it was there that made that even possible.
I don't know how you beat Barragan. The one thing that always kind of fucks with Bleach is that moment where Soifon finally does something seemingly and lands her Shikai twice onto Aizen. He's just like, oh yeah, my dick's bigger than yours, and then it just doesn't work.
That's literally how it happened too. She's like, I gotta land one more time. I did it. And he's like, that doesn't work on me. You know that, right? Like, I'm literally just too strong for that.
So, like, there's a question of, like, if you just have more spiritual pressure, could you outdo Barragan's ageification process?
I think that's probably because, I mean, Aizen mopped the floor with him, so he had to. That's probably exactly what happened or how it went down. Aizen was like, yeah, that doesn't work on me.
Actually, do you have a peak moment for Ulquiorra before we go to favorite things?
Honestly, I think that peak moment is honestly when he does go into Sugunde Itapa. Because when, like, Ichigo's standing there, his shirt's off, so you already know his spiritual pressure's low. He's got his sword up. He's like, I got this. And you just see him just come out from the side, and his hand just hits his head. And you just see
But
Ichigo's
yeah,
shocked face. Just like, oh my gosh. And it is.
he's like at the top of the pillar. Next frame, he's grabbing Ichigo's head, about to toss him.
Literally. And then I think when his part of his peak moment is when he starts understanding the heart, actually. To understand that as he starts, like, disintegrating. I think that's a really peak moment because it's going to have an impact on Ichigo and Orihime, because those characters were really influenced. It even felt like, Ichigo was fighting Ulquiorra and he was willing to cut off his arm and whatnot, but you could see that Ichigo and Orihime really, like, kind of felt sorry in a way for Ulquiorra. They were, like, kind of sad on his death. They weren't, like, cheery or happy. It wasn't like oh yeah, we did it. It was like wow, damn.
It was surprisingly a bittersweet death for someone who was just such a great villain. Ulquiorra is the whole reason Orihime's in Las Noches killed Ichigo twice over. And then when he goes out, he finally starts to understand humanity, and you're just like, maybe he could have been a good guy helping kill the Quincy's if this didn't happen.
You imagine, man, there needs to be a Bleach game where you can do what ifs.
I don't think Ulquiorra can come back.
Probably some weird revival thing that Kubo could have wrote in with Las Noches, say like.
It would just undercut his death scene, and even with the Hell arc, I think he has to die to a sword slash, but he, like, disintegrated from losing all his spiritual pressure, which is kind of weird. When Nell loses her spiritual pressure, she turns into a kid, but when Ulquiorra loses his spiritual pressure, he disintegrates.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
Nell is a very interesting character. Kubo was really going for more themes with Ulquiorra, and it really fit into the plot in that way, and his death was kind of important for the plot, and not to give the Espada kind of the Nell treatment, because I don't really know the whole backstory with Nell now I think about it. I can't really comment on Nell too much right now.
There's a whole missing story about like first generation Quincy's,
Mhm.
first generation Espada, and then like how did the second generation of Quincy's and Espada come to be?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite thing, I wrote 2 words here. He's autistic.
I gotta mention this. You're the first person I ever called Ulquiorra. At least from the threads I've ever read, I've never seen anyone call Ulquiorra autistic, and I love it. Because I would have never thought of it.
I fucking already said all my points about his autism. I can't cover it again.
I really like his design, especially his mask. I remember when I first was like reading Bleach and I was looking at the Espada, and they have like a portion of their mask available to be seen on them, and I thought that was so like Ulquiorra's in particular. I would look up on like Google, I'd be like, oh yeah, Ulquiorra's mask finished. And I would see all these fan arts of what his like full finished mask would look like. I don't know why his mask just clicked with me. His outfit with the white, black, and like the dark green. I think he's like aesthetically one of the most coolest looking Espada.
The green for Ulquiorra is just so iconic.
It is very iconic. I also like his, it has like a little bit tears, looks like it's drawn on him. Kubo drew those for a reason. Guessing it's again to hit a home on that nihilistic approach and how it's kind of a sad. And I just really like how you can look at Ulquiorra and you can pretty much tell what he's going to be about. It's expressing the character without having to throw it in your face.
One question I have. So some of the translations, when they're talking about the aspect of death, some say nihilism for Ulquiorra, but some say depression. Which of the two do you think is the better fit?
Definitely nihilism. He's not really giving me like depression of I don't want to be alive, or even depression as in like sadness and a gray cloud. It's very just dark as in I believe in absolutely nothing. Only thing that keeps me going is literally curiosity. I think that like hammers home with nihilism.
I always thought Ulquiorra's aspect of death was depression. And then sometime after a college class, I was reading the manga and realized the other translation's nihilism. I was like, oh, this just is it. This works so much better.
I don't want to throw it out there that maybe he doesn't have show aspects of depression. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what made you think about that at the time.
Well, why nihilism is just a better fit?
Yeah, like what caught your thing of it being like he had showed symbols of depression?
What does he look forward to? It's really that simple. Like if Ulquiorra were to take a nap or wake up, what's getting him out of that bed?
Curiosity.
It's not himself, really.
No, it's not.
It's not really people around him. It's just like, oh, maybe I can learn something, I guess, but that's not really like a strong motivator. Ulquiorra also never smiles in the entire series. He just
No, he doesn't.
shows sadness and anger. And one of the things is when people suffer from depression, one of the main emotions they demonstrate aside from sadness is anger, because that's the closest emotion to express after sadness.
And he's very isolated too, and it shows a lot of detachment and lack of emotion, which are characteristics of depression.
And then also his only like friend is Yami. He doesn't go to Yami. Yami goes to him. Like if Yami didn't come to him, Ulquiorra would do his entire life solo and would only do things when told to do things by Aizen.
I think with nihilism and depression, that like nihilism is more of a belief and depression is more of a state of. So, for example, like a depression is known as more of a mental health condition, and nihilism is just a belief. And so, while they're actions that are the same, I think that someone that could have a nihilistic perspective of life, they could have, signs of depression as well. Probably Ulquiorra probably has a couple hand in hand in both. But at the end of the day, he doesn't believe in emotions. I wouldn't say people with depression don't have emotions, because they do. So that's where I would say that's where it kind of diverges for Ulquiorra, because he wanted to understand emotions